Hello, everybody. It's me, Liz Marie, and today I'm going to be sharing all the books I read for March and April. A very belated March and April. What did I read kind of video. So yeah, I'm gonna just pull up my Goodreads app and we'll just get right into the video. First book I read in March was Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke and Other Misfortunes by Eric LaRocca. The overall Goodreads rating is 3.33 and I gave it a 3-star. I have to be honest, I did not remember what happened in this little, I guess it was like a little novella with like 2 short stories. I didn't remember the short stories at all until I watched Booked and Busy. I would think it was one of her old videos because I've just been going like her backlog of videos and just watching old stuff. And she talked about this thing. She loved it. I didn't. But I literally did not remember until she started talking. I was like, oh yeah, that's what the short stories, that's what happened. And like, she jogged in my memory. I'm going to read the synopsis. 3 dark and disturbing horror stories from an astonishing new voice, including the viral sensation tale of obsession. Things have gotten worse since we last spoke. A whirlpool of darkness turns at the heart of the Mackerville ballet between 2 lonely young women in an internet chat room in the early 2000s. A darkness that threatens to forever transform them once they finally succumb to their most horrific desires. A couple isolate themselves on a remote island, that's the second short story, in an attempt to recover from their teenage son's death when a mysterious young man knocks on their door during a storm, and a man confronts his neighbor, the third story, when he discovers a strange object in his backyard only to be drawn into an ever more dangerous game. So, first one is like how it sounds. This young woman is trying to sell like an old family heirloom for money, and then she gets in contact with this other woman who is interested in buying said heirloom. And then from that exchange, they become involved with each other online. And then the other one she met online, the girl that was trying to sell the heirloom, is getting weird requests, but like to prove her love kind of thing. And it just gets weirder and grosser and weirder as it goes along. And then the second one with they lose their son and then they're both on an island. I think they're supposed to be caretakers, or are they on vacation? Can't exactly remember. By the way, the young man shows up, says he's one person. The husband doesn't believe him, thinks he's something else. The wife thinks he's an angel, and then, mayhem ensues. Things happen. And then the third one, the older man finds something in his yard, sees this name on it, goes to the neighbor down the street, like, hey, I found this in my yard. And then he invites him, like I said, to do a game. But he doesn't want to be rude, so he's like, yeah, I'll play. But then, being too polite sometimes gets you in trouble. So that was that. I gave it 3 stars. They were still very interesting stories. They're just one of my favorites. The next book I read is, my boyfriend started like a comic book club with his friends, and then he asked me if I wanted to join, so then I joined. And the first one I read with them, I think, was Revival, Volume 1, You're Among Friends. I gave it a 3-star. On Goodreads, it has a 3.86, so it's not like that far off. Let's see what's it about. For one day in rural central Wisconsin, the dead came back to life. Now it's up to Officer Dana Cypress to deal with the media scrutiny, religious zealots, and government quarantine that has come with them. In a town where the living have learned to deal with those who are supposed to be dead, Officer Cypress must solve a brutal murder, and everyone alive or undead is a suspect. Dun dun dun. Like, the premise was very interesting. And this was just like the first issue, so I was just like, yeah. The first volume, Revival has issue 1 through 5. So I read the first volume, and I was like, okay, I'm liking the ideas, but it got a 3-star because it was just like, exactly, like, oh my god, I must read more kind of book or comic. So I was like, I was willing to give it more of a chance, but we'll see how that goes, because I didn't. Did I finish it? I don't think I finished it. It involves that little town, Wisconsin, where people came back to life. They called it Revival Day. And then the murder, I don't know if I should say more because it was in the synopsis. But like said murder she's trying to investigate is like someone close to her. So it's very important for her to find out who killed that person. And religion is kind of a big topic in here also, because it's a small town. There's the religious aspect, and then the military get involved down the line. It's just a very interesting story, but the execution of it, I don't think was done well enough in my opinion. For me. The third book I read in the month of March was Lolita. I apparently gave 3 stars, but I'm giving it 2 stars because I really didn't like the topic, but I knew I wasn't going to like the topic. I think the only reason why I gave it 3 stars is because I preferred the way it was written compared to My Dark Vanessa. But I just don't like either one. I would not reread either one of the books, so 2 stars. On Goodreads, it has a 3.88. For those of you who don't know, it's about this man who gets obsessed with this young girl and basically kidnaps her. And inappropriateness ensues. Very inappropriate. It was very uncomfortable to read. It was more uncomfortable than My Dark Vanessa, solely because it was from the male point of view. And not that it was the male point of view, it was the perpetrator's point of view, is how I should phrase it. Whereas My Dark Vanessa was more so the victim coming to terms with what happened to her. So in that aspect, My Dark Vanessa, I think, would be a better read. But yeah, I just feel I preferred the writing of Vladimir Nabokov to the other author. So, but both books I wouldn't recommend. Then I read A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. It has a flat 4 on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars. Again, I really liked the premise. It didn't get a higher rating because I also read this with an audiobook playing at the same time because the words and the way the characters speak in this was very difficult for me to get through, which is why it's a 3 star. Because, I mean, the topic, again, is very interesting with, like, societal constructs want you to be a certain way, or, like, how society deals with, you know, not rebels. What would I call him? Criminals, I guess. He's a teen gang leader. There you go. Like how they handle children or teens who have gone down the wrong road, you know. Teen gang leader Alex narrates in fantastically inventive slang. The slang is what got me. Like, I needed the audiobook to get through this. That echoes the violent intensity of youth rebelling against society. Dazzling and transgressive, A Clockwork Orange is a frightening fable about good and evil and the meaning of human freedom. I don't know if it's... I want to talk about it anyways, but, like, he ends up getting into jail. And in order to get out, he decides to join this program, but it's basically like a brainwashing program in order for him to get his freedom and be back out in society. So, like, the conversation there is very interesting, and I did like the topics. It was just a hard read for me. It was just hard. I had a very hard time getting through it. The 5th book I read was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagiara. I don't know if I pronounced her name right. I really should start looking these up before I sit down and talk about it. The Goodreads rating is 4.34, and I gave it a 5 star. And I don't want to take that back. I had just such a visceral reaction, emotional reaction when I turned the last page and I finished this book. Like, it didn't make me cry or sob, but it was a very long book. I believe it was like around 700 to 800 pages. And just within that time, I just got really attached to characters. And then the things that happen to them is really heart-wrenching. It's just like trauma after trauma after trauma, which is very devastating. And when I talk about it like that, it's like, why didn't I like My Dark Vanessa? But I like this. It was the writing for me. And I just didn't connect to Vanessa the way I connected to characters in this book. But then I also, like, know this is kind of controversial. Is it controversial? I know some people just don't. They call it trauma porn. And I can see why they call it that. And then also I listened to an interview from the author talking about how her intent was to write a person who never got better. Which I kind of like, why would you want to write someone who never got better? It's very sad. I don't know, I just got attached to these characters and I gave 5 stars. It got 5 stars for me. The writing was beautiful. I got attached to the characters. I had a very strong emotional response. So that, like, usually gets 5 stars out of me if I, like, close the end of that book and I'm like, wow. Who said it? I think someone called it, like, something like end of book depression or something. Like, you finish the book and it's just like post-book depression. I don't remember who said it, but it was funny, like that feeling. 5 stars. Okay, so camera ran out of space. Forgot what I was doing. So we're gonna move on. I gave a little like 5 stars. The next one was Revival Volume 2. I'm just gonna talk about all the volumes because I read up to Volume 4 in the month of March. I looked ahead. I gave the majority of them 3 stars, and the last issue that made me stop reading it was 2 stars, unless that was the last volume. I don't know if that was the end of it, but that was the last one I read. It was Volume 4, and I gave it, my boyfriend gave me a pretzel, and that pretzel was stuck in my teeth. So 3 stars overall, I guess. I just lost interest. I really wanted to like it, but there was just a lot of things happening, and I don't know, the storyline wasn't just sucking me into the story. No, it wasn't making me want to continue. Then I read The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Average rating on Goodreads is 3.86. I gave it 5 stars. Sorry. Same thing with The Little Life. I didn't see it coming, but by the time I got to the end of this book and I closed it, I just had that feeling like that little egg, like I finished a good book. So I love it. I love this book. I love it more than The Night Circus. Like, this was the one for me. I bought it. Where is it? I bought the physical copy so I could reread it. That's how much I enjoyed this story. And I didn't even know I enjoyed it, which is hilarious. Yeah, I definitely loved it. Let's read the synopsis. Zachary Ezra Rollins is a graduate student in Vermont when he discovers a mysterious book hidden in the stacks. As he turns the pages, entranced by tales of love-lorn prisoners, key collectors, and nameless acolytes, he reads something strange, a story from his own childhood. Very interesting, right? Bewildered by this inexplicable book and desperate to make sense of how his own life came to be recorded, Zachary uncovers a series of clues, a bee, a key, and a sword, that lead him to a masquerade party in New York, to a secret club, and through a doorway to an ancient library hidden far below the surface of the earth. What Zachary finds is this curious place is more than just buried home for books and their guardians. It is a place of lost cities and seas, lovers who pass notes under doors and across time, and of stories whispered by the dead. Zachary learns of those who have sacrificed much to protect this realm, relinquishing their sight and their tongues to preserve this archive, and also of those who are intent on its destruction. I'm not going to read the rest of the synopsis, but it was just, I don't know, this story just had all the elements to suck me in. I love stories, which is why I'm reading, and this is a story about stories. I think it sounds perfect. Yeah, and then there's a little love side story in there that I ended up by the end of the book being like, I am so for this. At first, I was like, I felt like it came out of nowhere. But then as I kept reading it and I got to the end of the book, I was like, I actually really love this. Title, The Starless Sea. There's a sea of honey. I think it was honey in the underground library. Outside of it, I'm just like, this is such a, I don't know, the whole concept. And like, once again, just reading all of it and the way it's described and the descriptions, you get to sit there and visualize everything that's taking place in your head. And it's just fun. It's a fun book. And can you imagine having an underground library? That'd be amazing. It makes me think of that episode from Avatar. I forgot what it's called. What was the library called in Avatar? I can't remember. Love that episode, though. The next book I read is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The average rating on Goodreads is 4.23. I gave it 3 stars. But now that I'm thinking about it, I want to bump it up to 4 stars because I actually had a lot of fun reading this book. It's just a really ridiculous space adventure. It's just, if you can't take like ridiculous humor, that's basically the whole book and you probably won't like it. But I had fun reading it. The reason why I'm going to bump it to 4 stars is because me sitting down watching the movie, I realized how much I love the book. Like, the movie did not do it justice in my opinion. People may love the movie, but I don't think it did it justice. They could have did it better. I want them to do a remake and do it better. I mean, the movie was still fun, but I prefer the book. Seconds before the Earth is demolished to make way for a galactic freeway, Arthur Dent is plucked off the planet by his friend, Port Prefect, a researcher for the revised edition of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, who, for the last 15 years, has been posing as an out-of-work actor. Together, this dynamic pair began a journey through the space, aided by quotes from The Hitchhiker's Guide. And a galaxy full of fellow travelers, Zaphod Beeblebrox, two-headed, three-armed, ex-hippie and totally out till lunch president of the galaxy, Trillian Zaphod's girlfriend, whom Arthur tried to pick up at a cocktail party once upon a time zone. Marvin, a paranoid, brilliant, and chronically depressed robot. Oh my gosh. This robot. He is so sad the entire time. His attitude is like, why bother? The entire time. I feel bad for his programming. Like, whoever programmed him, like, why'd you make him like that? But anyways, there's a bunch of, like, funny characters in this. Basically starts with Arthur trying to protect his home from being bulldozed over. But in the larger scheme of things, you find out that's not so important because Earth is going to be destroyed in order to make way for a galactic highway. Do you see how ridiculous that sounds? And then it's just, I don't even know how to describe this book. It's just fun. It's just fun, ridiculous, funny. Doesn't make sense. Like, you really have to suspend your belief for this, I think, to have fun reading it. But I enjoyed it. The next book I read is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. The average rating is 4.29. I gave it 4 stars. I loved the movie as a kid. I have to rewatch it because my memory of it is vague, but I know I've heard that, like, the movie compared to the book is, like, they're not, like, the same, which is good to know going in. But I had a lot of fun with this. Howl's Moving Castle. It's about Hal and his moving castle. And Sophie, who gets cursed as an old woman, and she ends up being in Hal's castle, going on their little adventures together, experiencing his attitudes and his frequent and random love affairs, and just being a grumpy old lady. She's like me, and I'm pretty grumpy sometimes. But it's a cute story. I read Ninth House in the month of March also. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it enough to read the second book. But I think I gave it 3 stars because there were like 2 scenes in it that I did not enjoy reading. And I felt like I honestly wouldn't have included them in the book. But it probably was meant there for a purpose that I don't understand. So, Galaxy Alex Stern is the most unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. Raised in Los Angeles hinterlands by a hippie mom, Alex dropped out of school early and into a world of shady drug dealer boyfriends, dead-end jobs, and much, much worse. Yeah. I think the beginning starts with her having survived a possible drug overdose. And, like, her boyfriend that she was with was older and also did not treat her well, and he was just, like, he sold drugs. So, the guy from Yale, I forgot, was he the president of Yale? Well, he's someone high up. Comes to her with a deal because he realizes that she can see ghosts. And they think that would be very beneficial for the 9th house, which is what she is in. Honestly, I'm not good at explaining this. But she goes to Yale, and they have all these, like, secret societies that do different, like, things with magic. And she goes there in order to be... I'm sure that she people who explain this way better. She monitors the activities of Yale's secret societies. Okay, I guess that's, like, the best that's gonna get. I can't even think of a word of what to call her. But yeah, she's making sure that all the societies are staying in order, not doing anything they're not supposed to. But then while she's doing that, she just uncovers more and more secrets that, you know, get her into some trouble. And it's a very magical realism kind of book. I enjoyed it enough to keep reading it. I'm going to move on because I'm just, like, word vomiting at this point and not making any sense. After that, I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Wow, I didn't realize how many 5 stars I gave this month of March. His average rating is 4.43, but this got a 5 stars for me. This was just such a heartwarming book. It's about a man called Linus Baker, and he works for, excuse me, the department in charge of magical youth. So he goes on he goes to check on orphanages, and the orphans, magical orphans there, make sure there's nothing, going awry, nothing wrong, make sure everything's up to par. And his life is just very routine and boring. Like, there's no deviation. He goes to work, goes back home, eats, sleeps, goes back to work. His world is very, I would say, black and white, with some gray maybe, until he gets the assignment to go to the house in the Cerulean Sea, where he meets very fantastical characters and the caretaker of that house, that orphanage. And, I'm going to say, a little color starts to come into his life, okay? Wakens him up to what he was missing. And it was just like whole found family cuteness abounds. I just can't. A magical island, a dangerous task, a burning secret. Linus Baker leads a quiet, solitary life. At 40, he lives in a tiny house with a devious cat and his old records. As a caseworker at the department in charge of magical youth, he spends his days overseeing the well-being of children in government-sanctioned orphanages. When Linus is unexpectedly summoned by extremely upper management, he is given a curious and highly classified assignment: a travel to Mauritius Island Orphanage, where 6 dangerous children reside: a gnome, a sprite, a wyvern, an unidentifiable green blob, and a were-Pomeranian, and the Antichrist. Antichrist? I can't believe I'm going to say this, but his character was the cutest, okay? He's trying to act all big and tough because of what he's supposed to be, but the caretaker of the orphanage is trying to tell him that just because someone says you are one thing does not make you that. Which is a beautiful message. This is just a cute book. I highly recommend it. It's so cute. The next thing I read was The Human Target, Volumes 1 and 2. And I rated this 4 stars. Human Target's Marvel, right? Not Marvel, DC. Whoops, my bad. I knew I got it wrong. It's about Christopher Chance, who has 12 days to solve his own murder. Because he got poisoned. So he's trying to figure out before he dies what the heck happened. And things unfold and happen. Some superheroes show up. I think the Green Lantern's in here. Yeah, the Green Lantern's in here. I enjoyed it. It was like a film noir detective kind of story, so I definitely enjoyed it. After that, I read The House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. The average rating is 3.92 on Goodreads, and I gave it a 5-star. How the heck did I give this book a 5-star? I mean, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading. I mean, the writing was not perfect. It is definitely YA, but I had fun. So apparently I had a lot of fun. I gave it 5 stars. I don't know if I want to change it. Maybe I'll reread. Maybe. Well, I'm waiting for the second book to come out so I can read it. But in a manor by the sea, 12 sisters are cursed. Anna Lee lives a sheltered life at Highmoor, a manor by the sea, with her sisters, their father, and stepmother. Once they were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short. Each death was more tragic than the last. The plague, a plummeting fall, a drowning, a slippery plunge, and there are whispers throughout the surrounding villages that the family is cursed by the gods. Disturbed by a series of ghostly visions, Annalie becomes increasingly suspicious that the deaths were no accidents. Her sisters have been sneaking out every night to attend glaring balls, dancing until dawn in silk gowns and shimmering slippers, and Annalie isn't sure whether to try to stop them or join their forbidden trysts, because who or what are they really dancing with? When Annalie's involvement with the mysterious stranger who has secrets of his own intensifies, it's a race to unravel the darkness that has fallen over my family. Over her family, not my family, for acclaimed her needs. I had a lot of fun with this one. There was a lot of magic, mystical things happening. The love interest got me. I was really for it. The 2, Annalie and the love interest. I was like, yes, I approve. And things happen that makes me sad. There's death in here. I mean, it begins with the funeral of one of the sisters. But I can't wait to read the second book, honestly. I think I'll leave it at 5 stars. March was a really good month. Who would have thunk it? The next book I read was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I gave it 4 stars. The average rating on Goodreads is 4.35. But I'm sure most, if not all, know the story of Achilles. What I appreciated a lot about this one was that you got the point of view from his friend Patroclus. But in this, it's love interest. It was them growing up from boys to adults while he follows Achilles on his destiny to go to the Trojan War and die. It was very heart-wrenching at the end with deaths. I mean, I already knew it was coming because I've read the actual story. What was it? Is it the Iliad? I can never remember which one. I think it's the Iliad that this one takes place. Yeah, I already knew what was going to happen, but seeing it from the side of Patroclus and how he felt about the whole situation, like Madame Miller making him more prominent, made me enjoy this a lot. I mean, I really love Greek stories and mythology, so good read for me. And I believe the last book I read in March was the book called Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. Average rating is 3.7. I gave it 4 stars. And what are you doing? No, you're fine. I almost didn't see you though because of the light. My boyfriend just had his arms up like a starfish or something, trying to get my attention. But I don't know, you probably heard him in the background. Maybe he was working out. Okay. But Pen Pal is a very disturbing story. Very disturbing, and I was uncomfortable, and that's why I gave 4 stars, because it was actually a very good thriller, mystery kind of horror. Pen Pal began as a series of short and interconnected stories posted on an online horror forum. Oh, that's how it started? I forgot. Before long, it was adapted into illustrious audio recordings and short films, and now a novel. How much do you remember about your childhood? In Pen Pal, a man investigates the seemingly unrelated, bizarre, tragic, and horrific occurrences of his childhood in an attempt to finally understand them. Beginning with only fragments of his earliest years, you'll follow the narrator as he discovers that these strange and horrible events are actually part of a single terrifying story that has shaped the entirety of his life and the lives of those around him. If you ever stayed in the woods just a little too long after dark, if you've ever had the feeling that someone or something was trying to hurt you, if you remember the first friend you ever made and how strong that bond was, then Pen Pal is a story that you won't soon forget, despite how you might try. I just remembered reading the synopsis of something that happens, and now I'm sad again. Basically, he's like recounting things that happened to him from his childhood through his teen years. And he basically was being stalked, but he didn't realize it. And it's just heart-wrenching because you see the things his mom tried to do to try to protect her child. And then and then what happened in the end, and it was just sad. It was a good story. I don't know what that phase was. But yeah, I agree with the 4 stars. This was a good book. I really got invested in what was happening. Okay, we're moving on to April. Finally. How many books actually was that? I'm going to condense the comics as like one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14 books. Pretty good. I've slowed down a lot now. I'm taking my time reading my books now. I never was trying to rush through them. Now, I'm really taking my time. I started April with another comic called Black Science, which I thought was going to be really good. I like the idea of it once again. It just didn't get executed well, in my opinion. The storylines was a little convoluted when they could have streamlined it more. And I really wanted it to be good. I gave it 3 stars, but I'm leaning more toward giving this 2 stars. I think I'm too nice. But Black Science, I read volumes 1 through 3. The average rating for volume 1 is 3.89. Anarchist scientist Grant McKay has done the impossible. Using the pillar, he has punched a hole through the barriers between dimensions, allowing travel to all possible universes. You see why it sounded so interesting and good? But now Grant and his team are trapped in the folds of infinity, the pillar sending them careening through a million universes of unimaginable adventure, sanity, flaying, danger, and no way home. Synopsis sounds really good. The execution of it just wasn't great, in my opinion. Something got lost. I feel like they should have stuck to one thing, and they tried to throw in too many things. Too many curveballs, I think. Too many different storylines going on. They should have just streamlined it and made it, more interesting. I think it would have been more interesting if it was more focused. It was too all over the place for me. The next book I read was Heartless. 4.9 average, 4.09 average on Goodreads. I gave it a 4-star. I really enjoyed this book. I went into this book completely blind, and then I was punched in the gut. Even all the clues were there, and I should have known. I did not catch on until it was too late, and then I was heartbroken because I knew it wasn't going to be a happy ending, because this is supposed to be a story of the Red Queen, Queen of Hearts. If you're looking, what queen? The Queen of Hearts before she becomes the Queen of Hearts. So, when I think back about me reading this, and I just didn't see. I mean, she even said off with their heads at one point, and I didn't make the connection until I was already 2/3 into the book. And then I looked at the synopsis, and there's like, oh, they literally tell you it's the story about the Queen of Hearts. And I was just like, but see, that's why I like going into books blind sometimes. I think it made it more fun and enjoyable for me, even though it definitely wasn't a happy ending, because she becomes a cold-hearted biatch, Queen of Hearts is not nice. Long before she was a terror wonderland, the infamous Queen of Hearts, she was just a girl who wanted to fall in love. Catherine may be one of the most desired girls in Wonderland and a favorite of the unmarried King of Hearts, but her interests lie elsewhere. A talented baker, all she wants is to open a shop with her best friend. But according to her mother, such a goal is unthinkable for the young woman who could be the next queen. Then Kath meets Jest, the handsome and mysterious court joker. For the first time, she feels the pull of true attraction. At the risk of offending the king and infuriating her parents, she and Just enter into an intense secret courtship. Kath is determined to define her own destiny and fall in love on her own terms. But in a land thriving with magic, madness, and monsters, fate has other plans. Yep, and fate did not want her to live happily ever after with Just. I love Just. I love him. And he didn't deserve what happened, okay? Fate is cruel mistress. All I gotta say. The next book I read was A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I. Lin. Average rating is 3.87. And I gave it 4 stars. I mean, I think I can see why people gave it an average, lower average rating, it's not 4 stars. Or whatever, 5 stars, because it reads very young. This is definitely a YA book. But it was still such a cute story, and I enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 stars. It's about this girl named Ning, and she goes to the capital. Is that what they call it? I just finished the second book, and I can't even remember. Yeah, the Imperial City, to try to become the next Shi. And she's not technically a Xinong 2. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly. But, she gets magic from tea. So she would have been an apprentice, but her sister was actually the apprentice. But their mother died, and her sister is on the verge of dying because they both got poisoned by these poison tea bricks that have been going throughout the country. And people are dying from it. So she wants to go to this competition to become the court Xinong Shi, so she can solve the poison, find a cure, save her sister. But then, politics are involved. And things are never good with politics. There's always the one side that wants to overtake. I'm not explaining this very well. Maybe I should just read the synopsis. She meets the princess and stuff. And the princess is supposed to be taking over as empress. Her dad is poisoned, but I don't think everyone knows that he's dying or dead. I don't even know. This is whatever. I'm going to talk. And then her cousin, Kang. His name's Kang, right? They don't say his name, but his name is Kang. Ning and Kang have a thing going on before she finds out that she's the exiled, nephew of the emperor. So, and then a whole plot gets revealed at the end. And things go down, and then she has to run from the city because she's getting framed for a crime she didn't commit. I'm also missing the important part. The competition was very fun, to see unfold, the tasks that they have to do. But then, after that, the politics get in the way, and there's, people who want to take over. And get rid of the princess. That was all over the place, not very well explained. But for Ning, the only thing worse than losing her mother is knowing that it's her own fault. She was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her, the poison tea that now threatens to also take her sister's shoe. When Ning hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest Xinong Shi, Masters of the ancient and magical art of tea making, she travels to the imperial city to compete. The winner will receive a favor from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister's life. But between the backstabbing competitors, bloody court politics, and a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret, Ning might actually be the one in more danger. Which I already said, because at the end she gets framed for a crime she did not commit and has to run. She's on the run, y'all. Yeah, but overall, I enjoyed it. Next book that I read, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I gave this one 4 stars. Average rating on Goodreads is 2.94. Alina, I was looking for her name in the synopsis. Alina. She's a soldier. Her best friend, Mal, also a soldier, you know? But she's kind of like very, I don't want to say sickly. Did they describe her like that? She's super skinny. Her hair is kind of dull, lackluster. And she doesn't have like the best strength, I think it was. And then she's like on the front lines where what is the thing called? The fold is, and it has like these dark creatures in it, and she has to cross it. And then while they're crossing, they get attacked. And then she's trying to protect her best friend, Mao, who she's in love with. And then before you know it, big blast of light appears, and everyone freaks out because it came from Alina. And then she finds out she's actually one of the, is it called? They're Grishas, right? Yeah. She's a Grisha. She has powers. She didn't know it. But apparently if you're a Grisha, you don't use your powers. It kind of like hinders you health-wise and like look-wise. Like your hair is dull, your skin is like lackluster and dull also. Like you're feeble and weak. But when you use your powers, you get like a flush to your skin. Your hair is glorious. Yeah. Go figure. Why can't I have Grisha power? She finds out she has the powers. She's a sun summoner. Is that what it's called? I might be making stuff up. But the Darkling takes her in order to supposedly fight the foe. But you find out the Darkling, as his name says, is not quite, good. Yeah, I'll just read the synopsis. The once great nation of Ravka has been torn in two by the Shadowfold, a swath of near impenetrable darkness crawling with monsters who feast on human flesh. Now its fate may rest on the shoulders of one lonely refugee, Alina Starkov, has never been good at anything. But when her regiment is attacked on the fold and her best friend is brutally injured, Alina reveals a dormant power that saves his life, a power that could be the key to setting her war-ravaged country free. We both know it's never that easy. Wrenched from everything she knows, Alina is whisked away to the royal court to be trained as a member of the Grisha, the magical elite led by the mysterious Darkling. Yet nothing in this lavish world is what it seemed. With darkness looming and an entire kingdom depending on her untamed power, Alina will have to confront the secrets of the Grisha and the secrets of her heart. The drama. I think this was a good book. It's YA, but I still like it. I had fun reading it. And had fun reading the whole series. Spoiler alert. I read the whole series. And I like it. I enjoyed it a lot. 4 stars. I've started reading a lot of series this year. Another series I started was The Bear and the Nightingale. It's the Winter Night trilogy. The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. Wow, I could not get that out. 4.10 average on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars. I like the story. I'm still interested in finishing the series, so I'm going to read the second book. It's just, it didn't pull me in as much as I thought it would. I'm going to read the synopsis so you guys know what the book's about. At the edge of the Russian wilderness, winter lasts most of the year and snowdrifts grow taller than houses. But Vasilisa doesn't mind. I think they described her as like frog-like, which is very strange. She spends the winter nights huddled around the embers of a fire with her beloved siblings, listening to her nurse's fairy tales. Above all, she loves the chilling story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon, who appears in the frigid night to claim unwary souls. Wise Russians fear him. Her nurse says in honor the spirits of house and yard and forest that protect their homes from evil. After Vasilisa's mother dies, her father goes to Moscow and brings home a new wife. Fiercely devout, city-bred, Vasilisa's new stepmother forbids her family from honoring the household spirits, which she can see. The family acquiesces, but Vasilisa is frightened, sensing that more hinges upon their rituals than anyone knows. And indeed, crops begin to fail, evil creatures of the forest creep near, and misfortune stalks the village. All the while, Vasilis's stepmother grows ever harsher in her determination to groom her rebellious stepdaughter for either marriage or confinement in a convent. As danger circles, Vasilisa must defy even the people she loves and call in dangerous gifts she has long concealed. This is in order to protect her family from a threat that seems to have stepped from her nurse's most frightening tales. So typical. She gets labeled a witch. Everyone turns against her, or they try to tame her. It's like, stop listening to those instincts, okay? I can't marry you off like this, and then you're going to end up in a convent where you can devote your life to God. I haven't thought about this story in a while, but she does meet Frost. Is that his name? The blue-eyed winter demon. He sounds handsome, if I do say so myself. I am interested to see what happens in the second book. The way this one ended had me interested enough to continue reading. So, I also started Caraval. Is that how you say it? Caraval? By Stephanie Garber. Has an average rating of a flat 4.0. I gave it 3 stars. Enjoyed it, but the writing wasn't great, in my opinion. I mean, it was a fun story, though. And it's about these 2 sisters who are named Scarlet and Donatella. There you go. Her nickname is Tella. But the main protagonist in this one is Scarlet Dragna, who wants to go to Caraval ever since she was a child. She wants to go see a Caraval. Caraval is supposed to be like this magical, do they call it? They don't call it a circus. They call it a competition. Because, yeah, you have to find clues and stuff in order to win. But, like, magical things take place, and then you don't know whether what your experience is real or not in Caraval, which is part of, I guess, the charm. But they always want to go. Then she gets an invitation for her and her supposed fiancé, which she's going to marry her fiancé and take her sister with her to get her away from their abusive father. And then, yeah, they end up in Caraval somehow, even though Scarlet is kind of against it, I think, at the beginning. And Donatella is like the rebellious sister, and Scarlet's the good two-shoe one that's just trying to protect her sister and her family. And they end up at Caraval. All these things happen. Her sister gets kidnapped. That's what happens. Legend, the guy who's in charge of Caraval, kidnaps Tella. And all this stuff happens. She goes on an adventure. There's some love in there, some betrayal. And yeah, it was fun. It was a fun read. I read One Piece, Volume 2. I love One Piece. I would attempt to rewatch the anime, but it's like there's like thousands of episodes at this point, right? I mean, there's a lot of volumes of anime, the manga too, but I'd rather just read the manga. So I gave it 4 stars. Had a lot of fun. It's just basically the story of Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy, trying to gain his crew, and he increasingly meets these people who become part of his crew, and it's just a whole pirate adventure, and it's very fun. I love it. I love it. It's so fun. So fun. Like, I want to be in Luffy's crew. Also, he ate like a forbidden fruit. I forgot what it's called, but he's all stretchy now. Where he can stretch, punch, and stuff. Wait, what was the average rating of that? I didn't even tell you guys. 4.36. A lot of other people like One Piece too. Another book I read is CIRCE by Madeline Miller. Gave it 4 stars. I think I like Song of Achilles more than this one. But I like both of them. The average rating for this one was 4.24. I feel like this story of CIRCE is like less known for what she's involved in the myths. But here's the thing. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of Titans, a daughter is born. But CIRCE is a strange child, neither powerful like her father nor viciously alluring like her mother. Turning to the world of mortals for companionship, she discovers that she does possess power, the power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Threatened, Zeus banishes her to a deserted island, where she hones her occult craft, tames wild beasts, and crosses paths with many of the most famous figures in all of mythology, including the Minotaur, Daedalus and his doomed son Icarus, the murderous Medea, and of course, wily Odysseus? I can't say it. But there is danger too for the woman who stands alone, and CIRCE unwittingly draws the wrath of both men and God, ultimately finding herself pitted against one of the most terrifying and vengeful of the Olympians. To protect what she loves most, CIRCE must summon all her strength and choose once and for all whether she belongs with the gods she is born from or with the mortals she has come to love. I really enjoyed this. You know, CIRCE is just put down in a corner, people look down at her witchcraft. You know, when a woman becomes powerful, they're always just like, we gotta take her down a peg, you know? So they try to do that to her. But you know, she's gonna create her own path. And that's what she does. And I love it. That's good. 4 stars. I'm gonna buy this eventually, along with the Song of Achilles. For our comic book club that I have with my friends, we started a comic called Fables, which has a lot of characters from Fables, like Snow White, Pinocchio, Boy Blue. Is that what his name was? Boy Blue? Bluebeard. I think that's what his name. 3 Little Pigs. 3 Blind Mice, I think was in there. Or am I just thinking of Shrek? Anyways, there's just like a lot of fairy tale characters in it, which was a lot of fun. And I read like how many volumes did I read in March? I think I read 4, and I gave them all basically like 3 stars. Because once again, as fun as it was, it just wasn't. I have found a comic. That's Saga. I read Saga. I need to catch up that now that they restarted. I love that one. I love it. 4 or 5 stars. Everything. This, I haven't found another comic book that I absolutely like love. Like I love Saga. Manga's different. Comic books, I'm having a hard time finding ones I really enjoy. But Fables gave them overall like a 3 star. When a savage creature known only as the adversary conquered the fable lands of legends and fairy tales, all of the infamous inhabitants of folklore were forced into exile. And the exile, they're now in like modern day New York, I think, instead of like the Fables, like dimension, which is a lot of fun. Actually, the whole premise is a lot of fun. It's just, again, I feel like the authors of this, or the author, it was just one person, right? It was trying to figure out where he wanted to go with the story, and so it ended up being convoluted and not streamlined like the other stories. I think that's what like a lot of comics have issues with. I think they try to add a lot in there because it's so visual and less words that they try to make bigger impact. But by doing that, I think they lose the reader, in my opinion. Let me continue the synopsis. Disguised among the normal citizens of modern-day New York, these magical characters have created their own peaceful and secret society within an exclusive luxury apartment building called Fabletown. But when Snow White's party gal sister Rose Red is apparently murdered, it is up to Fable. Oh, well, that's just like a story within the thing. But like the overall thing is that they're exiled, and they're trying to defeat the adversary to find a way back to get back into the Fabled lands. But yeah, still a fun read. Not my favorite. Then I started yet another series, and I started Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn with the Final Empire. Average on Goodreads is 4.47, and I realized I did not rate this. What do I feel about this? I think I started doing that. I stopped rating my books because I wanted to like let it simmer in my brain and think about it. What do I want to... that's too hard. I'm going to read the synopsis, you guys, and then maybe I'll think of something. I'm going to read the rest of the series, but yeah. What if the whole world were dead, blasted wasteland? Mistborn, for 1,000 years the ash fell and no flowers bloomed. For 1,000 years the sky slaved in misery and lived in fear. For 1,000 years the Lord Ruler, the sliver of infinity, reigned with absolute power and ultimate terror. You know, I'm giving it 4 stars. I think that fits. Kelsier, I think he's my favorite character. The way he like concocted his plan to get things to fruition and moving for like the rebellion movement, if that's what you want to call it, to overthrow the Lord Ruler. And then like the whole world's like just black and gray, like gray tinged because there's ash everywhere. Like even the plants aren't green anymore. There's no bright flowers. But there's Kelsier, who's like becomes kind of like the leader representative for the rebellion. And then there's his pupil. What is her name? Vin? Was it Vin? I can't remember her name. It'll take you too long. I'm going to run out of memory on my card again. Then when hope was so long lost that not even its memory remained, a terribly scarred, heartbroken half-ska rediscovered it in the depths of the Lord Ruler's most hellish prison. Kelsier snapped, which means he came into his power as a Mistborn, and found in himself the powers of a Mistborn. A brilliant thief and natural leader, he turned his talents to the ultimate caper, with the Lord Ruler himself as the mark. Kelsier recruited the Underworld's elite, the smartest and most trustworthy allomancers, each of whom shares one of his many powers and all of whom relish a high-stakes challenge. Then Kelsier reveals his ultimate dream, not just the greatest heist in history, but the downfall of the divine despot. But even when the best criminal crew ever assembled, Kel's plan looks more like ultimate longshot until luck brings a ragged girl named Vin into his life, when she finds out that she's a Mistborn also. Basically, the Mistborn can control different powers with different metals. Like if you're an allomancer, you probably have an affinity with one of the metals and could do one of the powers, which I'm not going to try to explain, but it's basically magical powers with metals. Like you consume the metals and then you can, like depending on which metal, like you can pull things to you, you can push things away, like metal. There's like mental capacities that you get that I can't remember right now. Strength. Yeah, there's just like different things you get when you consume the metals, and then you use that as an allomancer. Or if you have access to all of them, you're a Mistborn. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens next. I haven't been able to get this book from the library. I might end up buying it and just buying the whole series and just reading it. I mean, I'm interested enough. Even though the way it ended made me worried for the next book. So I was like, why? The next book I read is The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. Average is 3.32. I again did not rate this. I'm going to rate it 3 stars. But it's about this gay couple with their daughter, and they're on vacation in this cabin at the end of the world. Yeah, 7-year-old Wen and her parents, Eric and Andrew, are vacationing at a remote cabin in the quiet New Hampshire lake. Their closest neighbors are more than 2 miles in either direction, and these strangers show up with an impossible decision that they have to make, and then the horror ensues. So yeah, it kind of made me think of The Strangers, but like a different, like kind of premise almost. Like it's still in a cabin, and strangers show up, but the reasoning is different because supposedly it's the end of the world and they can prevent it by making a decision on something that these strangers ask them to do. I still want to watch the movie. Haven't watched it yet. But yeah, 3 stars for that. The Luminaries, another series I started. I gave this 4 stars. I'm not sure I agree with that decision. This is Luminaries by Susan Denner, an average of 3.72. And it's about this girl named, what's your name, girl? I hate when the synopsis just has a Winnie Wednesday, is that her name? Well, her and her family have been exiled from the Luminaries, who protect the forest from like nightmares or creatures that come in the night, like werewolves. What are different creatures. At the beginning, she tries to go do the 16th birthday. She could take the deadly luminary hunters trials. There you go. She takes such. She wants to take it, see if she can prove herself, so her family can like stop being in exile, and they can be reunited. I don't know, the word's not coming to me, but you know, like they could be a part of the community again and have access to everything, and everyone can stop shunning them. Because apparently when you get exiled, they stop talking to you like you don't exist. So, but she passes the hunter's trials falsely, and she doesn't correct it. And then she goes through the rest of the trials trying to be trained to become a hunter, and all this stuff happens. And yeah, together he and Winnie will discover a danger lurking in the forest no one in Hemlock Falls is prepared for. Not all monsters can be slain. Not all nightmares are confined to the dark. Yeah, they're called nightmares. Yeah, it was an interesting story. I don't know why I gave it 4 stars. Did I really enjoy it that much? Apparently I did, but I don't feel like that rating stands. I might change to 3 stars. Then I read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, second book, Siege and Storm, average rating of 3.3. I gave this one 3 stars. This is my least favorite book out of 3. It was just not as action-packed or interesting in my opinion. Hunted across the true sea, hunted by life she took on the full, Alina must try to make life with Malin in an unfamiliar land, all while keeping her identity as the Sun Summoner. I lost the video again. Here we go again. Luminaries, I gave whatever I gave it. I was talking about Siege and Storm. Alina and Mal are on the run because of the events that happened in the first book. So they're like trying to get as far away from Ravka as possible, but then they end up getting captured. The Archling finds them, and then they put them on a mission to find, I can't remember the way they phrase this. Well, the Darkling's trying to find these creatures, legendary creatures, kill them in order to give her more power. But the way he's doing it is he's trying to link her to him. So they're both linked together. That's that. Things unfold. And by the end of this one, a lot happened. But it's still my least favorite book. I'm going to move on now so I could just finish this video because it's going to be way too long as it is. The last book I read is Hellbent, which I gave 4 stars. This has an average rating of 4.19. I enjoyed this book so much more than the first book. But this is a rarity, I feel like, for the second book to be like best one so far. I'm so excited for the third one. Like, this has got me so hooked. I need to read the third one. I have no idea when it's coming out. I have no idea. I'm just looking forward to it. I hope it comes out soon. Probably not till next year. If that's even gonna happen. But the beginning wasn't really getting me, but then like I was like 50 pages and I was like, yes, I love this. Alex is back to her shenanigans again, doing stuff she probably shouldn't be doing to find out information that she probably shouldn't know. And then Darlington has more. He's more part of the plot, and that's why I can't freaking talk. But yeah, let me just wealth, power, murder, magic. Alex Stern is back, and the Ivy League is going straight to hell, cause they are. She even travels to hell in order to accomplish something. Oh yeah, she's trying to get Darlington's soul back, because they tried to get him back, but then he comes back as a demon. Because I mean, it's amazing he's even alive, but he's alive as like a demon. But they have to get his soul back so he could come back to. But things happen, and I loved it. It was so much more action-packed and stuff. I just felt like it was a lot more going on. And then the whole like tension between Alex and Darlington, I'm just like, I just want them to kiss, at least have something. Then the book, they didn't do anything. I was just like, can the third book please do something with that tension that's between them, because I'm going crazy. I don't know about you guys, if you've read this book, how you feel about it, but I just want them to get together instead of acting like there's nothing there, okay? Find a gateway to the underworld, steal a soul out of hell, a simple plan, except people who make this particular journey rarely come back. But Galaxy Alex Stern is determined to break Darlington out of purgatory, even if it cost her a future at Leith and at Yale. Yeah, that's basically the whole plot there. Just trying to get Darlington back, but I enjoyed this 10 times more than the first book. It wasn't a 5-star though. Yeah, but yeah, guys, it was a struggle to get through this video, but there's all the books I read in March and April, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Share any book favorites that you found this year, or ones you think I should stay away from. And yeah, until next time, bye-bye.